Okay, this is 14D video. Let's look at this some more and try not to get lost in the apparent complexity, because it's really not that complex. This is our octahedron, 15 frequency octahedron model that we were talking about in the last video. Right down in here, in the middle of it, is this octahedron, which self-generates inside its octet star, and that we know that this is a 3-frequency octahedron in here. Okay, now let's just pretend that we take that octahedron right here and make it big. Here it is. Now this is the 3-frequency octahedron, and this is that's the one that we showed you inside the last construction. Now, if we create the next internal progression or regression, here we have the 1-frequency tetrahedron, octahedron. Sorry, and this is if this is a 1-frequency octahedron, this dimension is 2. This dimension is the square root of 2, and now we're down to our very basic mathematics and geometry. Now let's suppose that we just keep going inward and inward and inward, doing this over and over and over again, going internally. Each time we get below 1 frequency in this octahedron, in order to keep it whole numbers, we would have to increase the frequency of the overall field at the octahedral level. So here we have the 3-frequency octahedron, which is contained right in here, right? And then this is the 15-frequency. If we keep going in, then the frequency conceptually of the tetrahedron of the octahedron surrounding would have to increase. So in order to keep at least unity in the most internal, in our unending regression inward, so that basically with multiplication by division concept and keeping unity as our constant, then as we go inward, we are expanding conceptually the outward, so that the further inward we go, the more frequency the outer containment in principle has to be. So that here we have I've got a little guy here, all right? So here he is, and he's like, if he's looking at us, see him? See his face on there? All right, let's turn him around and have him look this way. Okay, now he's looking into this infinite regression, or the unending regression going inward, right? That becomes the microcosm. Now when if he turns around and looks outward at this increasing frequency going outward, it becomes more and more spacious in principle, right? This is more concentrated, and this becomes more spacious. He's looking at the stars, and he's looking down into the atomic level, right? So that once that it's really the consciousness, self-consciousness determines the micro macro existence of the perception of universe, that really we're standing in the bridge between, we create the bridge between the micro and the macro just by where we focus our attention. But the principles of the geometry of it, or the conceptual reality of it, is taken care of automatically in the very few rules that we've made you familiar with so far, right? So, and really, that's all there is to it. So there's a few more things that I want to talk about, but really, then you can imagine that as these looking inward in principle, if you keep a certain perspective and imagine things becoming more and more progressing further and further and further inward, you can also imagine an increasing conceptual density up to the place where you conceptually run up against, well, how far can you go in dividing and dividing and dividing and dividing and dividing, and how dense can something get? Well, it only depends on where you're standing. If you move into that density, it becomes spacious again, right? So that conceptually, this allows for the, in principle, the idea of black hole, of density increasing to a place where it starts violating your conscious ability to think about it. I mean, and it is manifest in that density. And when you turn around and look back at the sky, at the stars, and you imagine that you're even if you're standing stationary here in the thing, but if the thing is continually increasing in frequency, and as you look back at the stars, they're going to seem like they're expanding, that they're going, that the universe is expanding. It will perceive to you as you stand in one perspective, which is where we are, all trapped together here. And so that when you look at the stars, and as scientists do measure it in their conception of time, they're going to experience the universe expanding, and then it's also going to logically expand at an increasing rate because of the geometry of it, the conceptually how it has to be. So it's not only expanding; it's expanding by measuring time from our perspective, stuck here in the middle. That the time, it's the time factor that makes it seem like the speed of expansion is increasing, so that really dark energy is and expanding universe and dark energy are conceptually manageable just in understanding these geometries and how they self-develop in principle, and if they can, they are. Because that's all there is in the end, is this field of rationality as a storage of consciousness and a container of story. And that is one way of managing the whole idea of universe without having to have more and more space. That the space is actually the conceptual principle of the rules, and the rules are so simple. So anyway, I don't know. I hope that is I'll try to approach that in the writing to try to clarify the thinking on that, but it's really resolvable in principle.